Okay. Okay, so we are recording. This is for all the folks who couldn't make it. All right, well, I'll start with my introduction as I normally do. My name is Nathan Russell. I am the education chair for Chicago FM Club. FM Club's been around since 1965. In Chicago, we're lucky enough to have multiple clubs with 150 plus members. So we decided to start this series again, and it's hosted every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. The link stays the same, obviously Chicago time, Central Standard Time, and we've done everything from Arden to Meshtastic to we've done a lot of topics, and they continue to grow. So if there's something that you want to present or you want me to present, I'm always available for that feedback. My call sign is N9BBM, and you can find me on QRZ.com. All of that is active. Okay, so with that said, this presentation, there is no official presentation that I could find. So this is something that I put together about hams over IP and what they offer compared to maybe what Ham Shack Hotline offered, since they ceased to exist in December, or excuse me, August. So, all right, thumbs up. Everyone can see my screen? Okay, good deal. All right, so these are, I usually start each and every one of these with areas that we're going to cover. Very basic information here. So hams over IP, what is it? What does it stand for? HOIP, hams over Internet Protocol. It's a modern ham radio communication platform that bridges traditional amateur radio with interop protocols and technologies. So basically, we're trying to supplement what we already use with radio and packet radio. So that's one of the things that VoIP, voice over IP, offers you. It was created by one founder. There's a dedication of board of directors. It's totally open source, and it's obviously thriving off the amateur radio spirit for experimentation. So these are some of the features that it can do. And coming from a Ham Shack Hotline guy, since I work mornings at a local TV station, it was hard for me to have RF in our TV studios. So one of the reasons what really kind of brought me into Ham Shack Hotline and this service as well is because I could have an isolated network, call it dirty internet, that's not connected to CBS's network. And I could experiment with different technologies, and this was one of them. So I'm a big East Coast Reflector fan, so I would obviously dial up one of their RF links over the system and check in that way. So real-time phone book, BLF monitoring, conference bridges. You can have all-star integrations, audio streaming. So let's say you like NPR or BBC or NOAA weather, right? 162.55. Everyone knows that here in Chicago. It broadcasts on top of Sears Tower. You could have audio streaming like that coming from a server. And then, of course, there's global coverage. The internet has no boundaries. This is what the real-time phone book looks like. One of the things that I like about it is it also, you can also dial out by DMR IDs. So this kind of gives you an idea of the call sign, the name, the extension, and at the very top here, left to right, are the screenshots that I generated. These were generated last Saturday, by the way, so that kind of gives you an idea of how fresh some of these are. So with that, with an active BLF, you can basically look at all of the call signs, names, and the extension numbers. I love the fact that you can go down the bottom left and actually click on rows, and you can show more call signs than just say 25 items. So really cool. So as far as active, these would have been the call signs that are currently dialed in somewhere, right? Active connections, not just, oh, here's the phone book of 3,000 or 4,000 extensions. This is what was active at probably about 8:30 in the morning last Saturday when I created this. The conferences, this is pretty cool. I love how you can just click on full list and just type in a partial name, East Coast Reflector, East, and it would pop up, right, with all the East. So this is, I think that this web GUI and this overall experience is way better than Ham Shack Hotline. It's way more user friendly, and I like how it's organized. So for those of you that use All-Star Link, I know that's a big thing with our club. We have almost every repeater linked on that, along with Echolink. You can just type in the no number and or the extension, and it populates the name and the call sign. So if you're within RF reach, you probably don't use our All-Star Link. But if you're not within RF reach, this would be another way for you to actually connect to an All-Star Link if it's connected and actually talk. So one of the reasons what brought me here with that. And then here's all the audio streams. You can see ABC Radio Australia, Smooth Jazz, Toledo, Ohio Police Dispatch. I mean, it really goes to prove that if you have an audio stream, you can pretty much make the connection on there. So as of Saturday, they have 3,146 extensions. That's in the US. They also have the European connection. So that's 498, and then Asian Pacific, which is 260. The phone book stats are cool because it gives you live stats of what's happening by region and how many are in use, and D&D, do not disturb, or idle. So all of these, all of this data is live. It's pretty dynamic, which is really cool. Let's talk about endpoints. An endpoint would be any type of device that you have at the edge, whether it be a traditional cell phone like this, where you've got ground wire up and running, or another VoIP client, or it could be a standalone device like a traditional hard phone, right? So, but you can have 10 of them per extension. These are some of the devices you can use: phone, tablet, desktop, a radio device, or you can have all of them at once. So Ham Shack Hotline was a little tough because you had to have a second extension to have a second device. I mean, they had these little, so you had to open up multiple trouble tickets. I will say for hams over IP, they're very, very, very responsive, almost like what you would pay for a service contract in a corporate entity. One of the things that I was impressed with was as soon as I uploaded my official copy of the FCC license, it wasn't even a full day, and I already had the extension information and all the login credentials. And I can't say that about all the other ones. It was pretty quick, and that's what I really like. If you're a member of Discord, we use it in our club. These guys also have a Discord that you can join and stay updated that way. There's a lobby, there's technical, there's all kinds of channels, and it's really cool to see all of that communication happening behind the scenes. So you have IAX and SIP trunks. So you can do some pretty clever trunking ideas for club activities and repeaters and advanced users. So anyone that's obviously used All-Star Link, that's one thing if you're doing it from the end user, but there's a lot of really cool stuff inside All-Star Link. You can also use the Ham VoIP package. That's a pretty good rock solid one, but you can really go in there and kind of really tailor your IAX settings and set up different methods to connect. So another great thing is there's conference bridges, just like you would for a big meeting in our company, or kind of like Zoom. You can host QSOs, you can do host parties, you can do all kinds of stuff with dedicated bridges. A lot of places you'll see are using this for emergency communications, FEMA, ARES, all of them. So there's one group in town here in Chicago that has this dedicated, and they've got VoIP phones almost everywhere in their emergency operations centers. So Radio, obviously you call for someone, they may not be there, but when you can just click one button. We talked about kind of how emergency communications has phased over time from handwritten notes that only I can read to packet radio at 9600. And then with Arden, obviously, you can transfer, 30, 40, 50 megabits at a time as far as data rate. But the great thing about VoIP is, this can definitely complement some of the other stuff that we've already discussed in the series of these lunch and learns. And then if you're a Microsoft user, LDAP, Active Directory, you can actually have one place to centrally locate all of your users and administer them. Which, if I type in my password 3 times uh, the wrong way at the TV station, they're going to lock my account. So someone has to take care of that. If you get 3 lockouts, you're pretty much done. Your account gets locked out indefinitely until there's some human interaction there. So LDAP would allow you to grow as a club or an organization and add users, remove users, change users, so on and so forth. And of course, there's a global presence. I already mentioned the US, Asia Pacific, and Europe. Um, so they're global. They're global. They're not just here in the US. They're not just here in Illinois. Um, and so it's a global perspective. And when you think of experimentation, there are a lot of hams who would say, why would I want a VoIP phone in my shack? And it wasn't until a member of our club, KD9ZDR, that he and I started testing DMR versus YSF versus D-Star. We were linking all of these systems together with All-Star Link as the backbone. And it's like I would just pick up my phone at work, hit one button, right? It would call his phone and we could discuss our plan of attack and testing. So it's nice to have that connection first on a VoIP phone, and then you can play the radio thing with all your hotspots and things like that. So that was really, really useful for us. I didn't really think of that until we started doing some tests, and it turned out to be a really good tool. And then, of course, you have PBX trunks. So Public Broadcast Exchange, it's basically a VoIP phone system. So these are the manufacturers that are out there. You have Asterisk, 3CX, Free PBX. Free PBX, you can literally stand up. If you're a big Linux fan like I am, you can go to distrowatch.com and you can actually kind of read about the history of all these flavors of Linux and what packages they use, the packet manager, but also kind of see where their infrastructure has started. Prime example, I recently bought a ThinkPad T61 from 20 years ago, and guess what? It's an x86 based processor. It's not AMD 64, and there are not many Linux distros that still support x86. So in this case, if I wanted to host one of these PBXs, I would have to do my research. Distrowatch.com was where I found out, hey, I'm just going to put Slackware back on that guy. So I share that information with you because knowledge is power. That's what this whole goal of these lunch and learns are, is to share experiences, but also have an open forum where we can discuss best practices, no practices, mediocre practices. We all have something to learn from everyone here. So obviously, All-Star Link is, if you, whether you know this or not, All-Star Link is actually the backbone is an Asterisk server. So on each of them. So that's where it's really cool where you can set up a trunk between different PBXs and just hit boom, and it comes right in to you. So, all right. So this one's kind of short. I'll probably expand this presentation for future. I'm probably going to use these at one of our meetings too. But so yeah, that's basically the intro to hams over IP. I personally found it through Ham Shack Hotline, and I started looking around, and Ham Radio 2.0 and Ham Radio Crash Course. Those guys are always kind of hammering away of oh, this is defunct. Let's see what the competition is. But um, yeah, so I do have it on the phone now on my cellular phone, but I'm waiting for the VoIP phone. I ended up going with just a Cisco 4-line basic VoIP phone. Um, with no PoE injector, right? I bought a PoE switch, but so yeah, I will update my signature. Some of you get Nathan at n9bbm.com. I'll have to update that extension number there. But I wanted to share this with you just so you can see what it's like. I actually did a presentation with the other system, and it was really cool. We had a demonstration between two phones and how it worked. And I was hoping more people would jump on that bandwagon, FM Club, and they really didn't. So maybe through this presentation, more people will consider. And I'm not saying you have to buy a dedicated hard phone. You can do that with other free apps on your phone or Linux machine or Mac OS like I'm running here. So any questions or comments on VoIP phones and services, why we would use them, why we want them, but more importantly, hams over IP?
Just a comment. I don't think iOS has a free version
Yeah.
of it. I know the one for iOS is like $5, which is I can't remember the name of it, but just let everybody know about that.
Yeah, the version that I bought, I think it was $9.99. And it is ground wire is what I bought. Yeah. I think you can use Zoiper if I remember correctly, but I like I said, I really didn't play with that. But yeah, um, it's kind of cool that you can have multiple endpoints using the same extension number. That's kind of cool. So, any other comments or questions? Excellent. Well,
Okay. So
you gotta be quicker. Come on, man.
I had to unmute myself.
Yeah.
So how does this work? You connect your handheld to your
No. This, yeah,
internet?
no, no.
How does this business work?
This is all VoIP, voice over IP. So it's gonna require you to have either a soft phone, either like a cell phone or a tablet, where you can actually download an app to connect to the VoIP system,
Okay,
or you would need a traditional VoIP phone like a Cisco, Polycom, so on and so forth.
sure.
There are also some ATAs out there, analog telephone adapters, that basically take VoIP
Oh,
and connect to a standard, well, not rotary phone, but you could go out and buy a 2.4 gigahertz or 5.4 gig um, telephone system and then connect it that way. But it does the
that that
conversion for you. Mhm.
that's like the modem you used to use to connect to AOL. You
Right.
put the
Mhm.
receiver on the thing, and
Mhm.
then it. Just a quick. So what do you use this for? What the
Well, I
hell is
just
this
told
for?
you. I
Anyway,
just told you. I just told you what I used
did
it for. When I
what
was
did you
built,
use it for?
when I was building a digital network, we literally had all these link systems working together as an all-star link private nodes. And so the way it would work, we would build a DB switch server or instance on a Debian box, and it would be in charge of converting analog audio, PCM audio, to these different flavors of digital. And I used Ham Shack Hotline with Kevin, who was sitting on the digital side of DMR, and then I would be sitting on the YSF radio, and we would use um, those on our network that we created. TGIF was part of it, right? We would test all of that either radio to radio or what have you with our hotspots, but we would actually use a VoIP service with a VoIP server to keep the connection going between the two of us, isolated, where we could communicate. Is this setting working? Is this setting not working? Because you're essentially encapsulating and de-encapsulating audio, right? You're going from analog to digital, and then it gets passed over the network. It becomes analog again, goes back out digital, and then hits your hotspot and comes back analog. So we call that encapsulation, de-encapsulation. And through that process, sometimes I would get packet loss. I wouldn't get any packets at all. Sometimes we all know digital audio can be garbled. It can be very low quality compared to analog. So we used a lot of that when
Yeah,
we built the network.
but for a humble civilian ham user, what the hell am I going to do with this?
Well, there's, like I said, emergency communications. There are tons of clubs that actually use it for communicating during an emergency. That's one way you can do it. There's some traffic you probably don't want to pass over RF.
You mentioned,
Doesn't matter if
yeah,
it's digital or not. You probably don't want to pass over, uh, you know, how many dead bodies there are in Chicago. Literally, like
yeah, yeah,
you don't want to pass out private health
yeah,
information. There are a lot of things you probably
yes,
don't want to talk on an
yes,
analog clear repeater, even with digital. And of course, we can't use encryption, right? That's an FCC major violation. So there's plenty of reasons to use other means of communication.
yeah.
And
I, you mentioned Aries. I belong to the DuPage Aries. In fact, we had Monday. We had a exercise. We were testing stuff, and
mhm,
they did have in their control center in
mhm,
DuPage the VoIP phones.
yep,
They did have these things. Oh
mhm,
yeah,
yeah. Like I said,
yeah.
I'm not saying that it should replace traditional radio as we know it. But if we've learned
Uh
from
huh.
anything, it's nothing but a supplement, right? And I think what a lot of people like is there are
Okay.
some people that don't. I mean, some people don't have money to go out and buy a $700 HT. Or you've got the people who are Motorola fanatics and they've got $7,000 and they'll go out and buy an APX. And it's like, why? Well, because you can, freedom of choice. But the one thing I tried to do, and then one of the things when I took over as education chair, at least in our local club, is to be more open-minded on different technologies and how we implement them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
One
yeah.
of the
It's a
biggest,
good idea. Sure.
I mean, it's one idea. I'm not going to say it's a great idea, but I think some of the resistance that I see firsthand, and a lot of people just go, I don't want that, and that's fine. You know, don't want it, don't use it. That's fine with me. But I think as a guy who's, 40 now and I've been a ham for 20 years, right?
Huh,
We
huh.
have to embrace
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
technology. And the last thing that I want to do as education chair is become complacent and say that's a
yeah.
terrible idea. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but I think a lot of ham radio operators, they just pick up a Baofeng, right? Here's a brand new UV5R, and they're like, I'm just restricted to UHF, or I'm just restricted to VHF or HF, whatever your flavor is. But I
Yes.
think this is just one more thing that could work really, really well. We just did Arden, right? Amateur Radio
Yeah, yeah,
Emergency
yeah.
Data Network, Casey. Literally, you could throw a system like this on Arden and have it work too. There's no reason why
Yeah,
one technology can't. I don't see it as a competition. It's just another
yeah,
way to
sure,
connect
sure.
people over the world.
By
Hopefully
by the way,
that answers
yeah,
your
yeah. By the way,
questions.
I upgraded from BF F8 HP to
Okay,
BF8 Pro, the
I
Pro
like that.
version. Yeah, it's
Okay,
got thousand. I can put thousand things on it. That's my original. That's my
okay,
new and
I
improved.
like that. Can
Both,
you?
both, both, both have calculated red tails
Nice.
to give them the oomph you
Okay,
were saying.
yeah. I mean, yeah, they're great fun. That's great. Can you white balance? Can you white balance your camera for us next week? I'm just joking with you, but
Oh,
um,
okay, okay. I hear what you're saying. I have to play with this thing.
okay. And I'm glad to see. I'm going to ask you: Are you living in your mom's basement?
No,
I'm gonna
I
ask
live
that
on a
question
third.
last week.
I live
Okay.
on a third floor, but I do have a basement, and yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
you could put a VoIP phone down there if you had to for an emergency. So
Yes,
excellent.
yes, 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 yes. Of course,
Anyone
it's a three flat by Humble Park.
Great. Anyone else with a question or comment?
Quick comment. One of the things I like about voice over IP is the clarity of the call
Sure.
compared to HF, which is nice. However, I live in an area where we have natural disasters that will cover a couple hundred miles.
Mhm.
So you can't really rely on voice or DMR because it's basically using the internet protocol through a repeater, but still you lose power for 2, 3 weeks. Trees are down, power lines are down. You've got to still rely on the old fashioned HF
Right. Yep.
and battery powered solar. So,
Sure.
but it's
I think it's fair to say everyone's use case will be different. We've always said the positioning statement when all else fails, right?
mhm.
And I think that's what ham radio does really well is um, clubs can have different opinions of how to operate, but at the end of the day, we all come together twice a year for a field day to prove to the general public we get the job done every single time there's failure in communication. We really do.
Yep. But like I said, voice over IP, the clarity for those of us who wear hearing aids is nice. It's one of the reasons why I like DMR so much. But again, depends on the day-to-day situation.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, if I didn't have a radio at work, I would use VoIP to connect to a lot of these systems. In the case of East Coast Reflector, everything's most connected systems use All Link as what I'm going to call the backbone or the spine. And then imagine all these leaves that where you go A to D and all the conversions happen. um, Dick, who started that network 20 years ago. I mean, he it's totally self-funded. They've done a really well, they're a well-oiled system, over 500 links. But if you try to get in on East Coast Reflector with a digital hotspot, you won't, because no one leaves that 3 Mississippi time for all the systems to drop. So another beauty of VoIP that's connected to All Link, as soon as you hit #99, you're transmitting. And those pileups happen because unlike IRLP, Internet Relay Linking Project, that's a whole nother presentation there. When they sense one link transmitting, no other link can transmit at that time. So think of a busy channel lockout, right? BCL on a radio. But with All Link, you might have 20 transmitters all key up at the same time, and you just hear heterodyne. It's a mixture of all that audio. So you're all right. All Link has amazing audio quality, and that's all based on the Asterisk protocol and system. So good points. Thanks for mentioning that, Sam. Anyone else with a question or comment?
I do have a comment. When I use my phone to pretty much get a hold of friends that are across the country, and also connect to other repeaters too, which is a nice thing to have. But there's also, I don't know if it Hams over IP has it, but the previous one had it, but it was audio programs, that old audio programs that used to be on the radio in the uh, 20s and 30s that I thought was pretty interesting. Um, there are additional things you can do with the VoIP phone other than just call a buddy. You know, listen to programs that may be on the internet, may not be, or
Sure.
even just dial up a repeater in California, Florida, Texas. You know, they're all over the place and connected and stuff like that. So I enjoy it from time to time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and think of it as an automated IVR, if we know what an IVR is, right? It's an automated system well, now it's all AI driven, but when you 20 years ago, when you called Sprint, when they were around, you probably had to hit a bunch of buttons to get to the department you wanted. So yeah, there is one service for ARRL Newsline. When you dial it, you can actually pick the story. So yeah, and Jesse here, we were just communicating today. He's in Hawaii, so he's what, 6 hours behind us or what have you, five, whatever it is. But anyway, so he's working on presentation, and I had reached out to the folks here on Discord, and we were basic. And so here's what I do. I'm not a subject matter expert on everything. Not the TV station I have to, because I wire crap for a living. But this hobby has changed so fast in the last 5 years, let alone 10. So usually what I do is I try to pick someone else who's already done this and has experience and bring them on with us so we can discuss it. But Jesse here, yeah, he mentions they have audio feeds, BBC, all time radio, and more. So, and it's all about the audio codec. That's what he says right now. So there are different audio codecs that sound better. So imagine MP3 at 128 kilobits per second. We thought that was bon diggity, that was badass back in the early 2000s. And now you look at some of these, high res, low loss or lossless, like WAV files and OGG files, and I can go on and on. But yeah, so typically the higher the bit rate, right? The better the audio, the sampling rate, all of that has to do with the audio quality. But as Sam said, clarity matters. It really does. We have some people in the club that are very hard of hearing. They'll never want to be a net control operator because they can't hear every other sentence or vowel or what have you. So, but yeah, those are all good points to remind yourself. And here's the thing: most of this technology is, here in Chicago, 2 beers will buy you a VoIP phone. You know what I mean? It really will. Or if you already have a cell phone, download one of these apps and try it. $10, what do you have to lose? Even if you don't use it. Okay, you're out $10. But for me, coming from television stations, I like physical tactical buttons. That's what I prefer. When I can pick up a phone and dial something, that's me. Not to say that the what I bought here on the iOS is bad, but I personally like physical buttons. I just bought a new 220 radio over here. It's in the Linko, and like they don't have a VFO knob. Doesn't that feel awkward to some of you? Like the new SUV I bought, yeah, it has a volume knob, but like there's no tune. It's just, we're going away from that. I've got a P1, P2, P3, P4 button. Okay, but I can't go up and down. I have to use the top of this microphone to do it. I don't know. It's just weird. So that's how I look at the world sometimes. Is I like tactical feedback, but yeah. So yeah, I think VoIP does offer something new. And like I said, there's no reason why you can't use those connections elsewhere. There's multiple ways that we can supplement some of this. So any other questions or comments for the group? Well, excellent. Well, I know we had a smaller group. I think we had 12 people last time, but like I said, my email is on QRZ. You keep this link, share it with your friends. I've tried to share it with as many groups as we can. I think knowledge is power, and the more that we can share knowledge, we can learn from each other, and obviously help. And that's another thing I like to mention. We're in constant competition for eyeballs and gadgets, and if we pulled some people in from Meshtastic that got their ham radio licenses. So the more that we discuss technology and how it all intertwines together, that's how we can help fight all the other technologies and bringing people into this hobby. You'd be surprised how many people from Chicago Mesh have joined clubs and become active members. Granted, not having Morse code requirement helped a lot for a lot of younger people, but yeah, it's kind of interesting how one presentation can really spark interest into getting people, as Mark holds up his Morse code key. It really can help. So, all right, like I said, I'm always open. I work early mornings, so if you ever have any ideas or you want to present an idea, I'm more than willing to facilitate that and kind of help grow this for what we have. And it looks like Jesse just posted a presentation that kind of shows you what you have. So thanks, Jesse. Like I said, we will probably revisit this for the FM club people in our club, but I've got people lined up for the rest of the year, which is very unique. That doesn't normally happen. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for being here, and it was a good time.
One last